Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this revision for the Introduction to Database course IT244. This revision is exclusive to the final examination of Semester 1 1435 1436 Hijri calendar. And it is also a revision, so bear in mind that it is a revision. It's a quick revision. By this stage you really need to know the subject. You had 4 months of studying the topic. You should be really very well familiar with the topic, and this is just a revision to brush up on your understanding, and it may help you in tomorrow's examination. Also, the strategies that I will adapt in this revision, that I will divide this revision into separate parts for two reasons. Well, obviously, as you can see, I'm using QuickTime to record this revision. So QuickTime creates big files. So I'll divide this into sections, so it'll be easier for me to upload it to my Dropbox, and therefore easier for you to download as well later on. Okay, so let's get started. Just a few hints for tomorrow's examination, or well, any examination really. When you attend the examination, first of all, make sure you arrive before the time of the examination, so you can settle on your chair before you get given the papers. Make sure you first of all read the first page. There'll be some maybe guidelines on the first page, so make sure you read those. Also read the questions carefully. Very important. I get this a lot when the students they just jump onto conclusions and may answer the wrong or give a wrong answer to a question because they misunderstood or they misread the question. If you do not understand any question, we are here for you to explain the question to you. Okay, so read the questions carefully. Also, please attempt all the questions. Okay, attempt all the questions. Do not leave any empty question. If you leave an empty question, you will be given a 0 for that question. Okay, make sure that you answer all questions because if you do answer, you may pick up some marks. So make sure you do not leave any empty question. Also, it's a common sense that you always attempt the easier questions. Okay, attempt the easier questions, then go to the harder ones. Do not waste time. You don't have a lot of time. It's 2 hours examination, and it's about 13 or 14 page examination. So you do not have a lot of time. You need to get cracking on with your answering. Read the question, understand it, and answer. If you feel yourself you're stuck on one question, just leave it for the time being. Move on to the easier question, and then come back later to the question that you left behind. Okay. And obviously, as you know, mobile phones will not be allowed in any way. So don't use your mobile phones for anything as a calculator or as anything. So you're not allowed to use a mobile phone. I don't think you need a calculator anyway. Okay, so that's just a quick hints for the examination. Now let's get started with this. What I will do. I'm gonna go by week. So as you can see on the background, I've got the blackboard open. So I'll go week by week just to make things maybe like more organized. As you know that week 1 does not have any really material, and just an orientation week. So that's you don't have to worry about week 1. We'll start with week 2. Excuse my voice is still early in the morning. I'm still drinking my coffee now. Right, okay, so week 2, excuse me, I'll just write it here. Oops, let me change the color. Black, right? So week 2, which is an introduction to database. Right, what you need to know in this obviously I'll go through the important topics. Again, another thing I probably forgot to mention that not everything that I'm gonna discuss in this revision may appear on your examination paper. Okay, however, I will be talking about the important stuff in general. Okay, I'm not giving you here the examination questions, I am giving you a revision. So I may say things that will not appear in your examination paper, and there may be some things that I do not mention here and will appear in your examination paper. But the things that I am going to discuss in this revision are actually important topics. Okay, what you need to know in week 2, you need to know the definition of the database management system, and excuse my writing please. Okay, you will need to know the definition of the database management system, and differentiate between the database management system and file system. Okay, we have another thing. We have the file system. File system. I think file system appeared in your midterm examination. So you will need to know also the difference between a database management system and the file system. And what we mean, obviously, database management system. Obviously, it's the database that we have, but we also have something that called file system. The file system, like MS DOS. Okay, file system like MS DOS. We all know that. I think we all worked with DOS at certain stages of our life, where you put your commands and you get the results. Now it looks something like that. If you remember, for example, it looks like something like that. So you'll have like C, which is the directory. Okay. And then you just have to specify further. So you'll have like if you're looking for a file. Oops. Okay, if you're looking for a file that you stored in your C drive. Okay, I think I'm doing something wrong here. Right. Okay. Right. So and then you're gonna search for that directory. Let's say the file called A, or the folder called A. So you look for the folder, and then the file in that folder, let's say it's called B. So you go like, okay, then A, B, until you get the information. Okay. So basically, the files exist in one location, unlike the database. The files here exist in one location, which is the directory, in the directory itself. And also you will need, I think we have a few disadvantages of the file system. You may need to know them as well. Disadvantages of the file system, of using the file system. So you need to know the disadvantages of using the file system. It's in your slides. You can refer to that. Okay, so that's that. Oops. Okay. Right. You also need to know the level in that week. You will need to know the level of abstraction, put that in here. You will need to know the level of abstractions. We have 3 levels. We have the physical level, okay. We also have the logical level, and we also have the view level. Right? Obviously, the physical level describes how a record is stored. This is the physical level, how a record is stored in the database. The logical level describes how the data is stored in the database and their relationships. Okay, so all the relationships are involved in the logical level, while the view level is actually how the users can see the database or the tables in the database. So how are the tables and other materials are arranged on the database. So that's the view level, and how can the user view the database. Um, Also, you need to know the difference between instance and schema. Instance, also the schema is also again in your slides. The instance is the actual contents of the database. Just like if you remember in Java, we call instance variables are the actual variables that you use, right? And for the database, it's more or less same meaning the actual contents in the database. We call it instance, and the schema is المخطط. The schema, the logical structure is the structure of your database, right? So you need to know these. Also, you will need to know. See all these things. I'm just talking about them briefly because you already have them in your slides. You can just go and fetch the information and just revise it, right? So you also need to know the database. The data manipulation language. What's the data manipulation language? And the data definition language. Okay, you need to know these two as well. Um, Obviously, there is. I think this chapter also mentions briefly about SQL. Well, obviously, SQL will come in a huge matter later on, so we will discuss SQL in details. Well, in revision later, but obviously, it does introduce SQL to you in very brief in this chapter. Or in this week, sorry. So we will discuss SQL in greater detail later on. Also, you need to understand. I'm talking all. This is all about week one. You need to understand the storage management. Okay, management. I won't have don't have space here. Management and how do we manage this? How do we manage the storage? Obviously, we're talking about database. So if we talk about database, we will have storage to store the data, right? And its responsibility. Okay, and the issues. Also, you need to know the issues of the storage management. Okay, so these three things you will need to know about the storage management. Also, I think there's transaction. We have transaction. We have transaction management. Okay, we have transaction management. I think it's on slide 24, so you may refer to that. And also database architecture. Database architecture. I think it's on slide 27, so you may need to refer to that. And obviously, there's no need to look at the history. I think the end of this week we have. I think the slides talk about the history of the database management system. You don't need to know the database. You don't need to know the history, and you don't need the diagrams in this week. So I think in this week we have a few diagrams explaining things. You will not be asked on these diagrams for this examination, nor the history of the database management system. So you will not be asked on that as well. Right. So I think what I will do, I will stop this. So I'll have the first part. I may actually go by weeks. So probably I'll each part will contain maybe a week. Yeah. So I'll stop at this stage and uh, I'll see you in the next part. Okay.